Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I'm posting free Linux tutorials. On the left there in white are the ones I've posted so far in the ad hoc playlist. The last one we cover grub error I posted a day or two ago. Next one will be dual booting Linux and Windows. But today we're looking at the introduction playlist, the command line for beginners and Windows users, and we're up to the fun bit, the basics of Vim. Here are the PDF notes, which you can find online in my ice drive. If you've just jumped in here because you love Vim and you didn't want to see the rest, the ice drive is here, and in the classroom in introduction you'll find the notes plus some handouts. I've added a few things here you might not have noticed. There are some handouts in there, just 3 things that I say, not that I wrote. The handouts I wrote are in the introduction, the basic commands, and Vim and Nano. There's also something new in here. I've now got a Mint virtual machine, which is very similar, the content's very similar to the CentOS one. But not a lot of people use CentOS on the desktop. It's more used for servers, and historically that's what I used when I was running courses, because it's very it's based on Red Hat and Fedora. So I used to run introductions, shell scripting and admin courses on CentOS. Now if you want that, you can download it. I've got it here. I've already booted it up. You can't do that because it's already up and running. That was done. There it is. No, I beg your pardon. That's CentOS. That's still there if you want to use it. But I'm not going to use that one today. I'm going to test out the Mint one. Just give that a second, or a few seconds as it says there. Over here are the notes. This is the command line. This is section 5 Vim Basics. The links are still there. If you want to go to iDrive, Dropbox or DigitalOcean, I might do some more on DigitalOcean later. It's a really neat way of accessing Linux. That's one we want. Right, this is Mint. Here you can log in as me. The user name is KDM. The password is KDM123. I'll post this on the Facebook group soon. The others users there are the same as in CentOS, Train 1, Train 2, Train A and Train X, and they have the same files as are or will be in Mint. I can show you that by opening a terminal. I'm also working on an Ubuntu, if you like Ubuntu, with GNOME. Let's make that big. An Ubuntu VM, we'll make that a bit bigger with Control Shift and Plus. There's nothing in here. I set the desktop, I left the desktop there. But if we go up and look in Home, we can look at the directories called Train 1, 2, 8 and X. This is something we did the other day, or if you did it the other day. That's not very good, is it? Right, I'll take that back. That would suggest we don't have permissions. Like I said, I'm test driving this, so if we find errors, well, we won't get an error like that if you can't spell train. No, we can look in there. Oh, never mind, I'll come back to that. They are there, as you can see. There is a difference between the original CentOS one in that there's a new Vim file that I use for this section of the course. So what you need to do first before you start is download that. I'll put it in the notes, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. Okay, so starting here, this section, or by the end of this section, you'll be able to describe the text editor Vim and Vi, customize the Vim environment, use the editor to create and alter files, and use various commands to compare two files, which I put in as well. So what is Vi? Vi is the original visual editor, as opposed to a non-visual or line editor. So it lets the user see the document that they're editing as a full page of screen. Original editors like Ed, typed that in the wrong file and completely screwed it up. Now I've got to find the, oh dearie me. Sorry about that, I completely messed up. You have to be careful what you type into Evince, which is the PDF reader I'm using, because it changes the settings. I changed it into dual page somehow. Anyway, we're back where we are now. I was talking about line editors. I should be in this window. Ed is one of the original line editors, and if we haven't got any files, okay, that's right. That's its error message, question mark. Q to get out. I can edit, although it'll be read only. etc password, that's always there. There we go. What it comes back with is the number of characters in the file. I think if you type a P, it shows you the line of the file that you're on, which is the last line, I think. I can't remember how to use it, but I remember the Q quits. So that's how people used to edit things, a non-visual editor. Vi and Vim are visual editors. They fill the screen with the file that you're editing, which is just as well, really, because that's not easy to use. The thing about Vi is it was available on all Unix systems years ago when people used Unix, before Linux sort of pushed it out of the way, I suppose. And then it was available on Linux, and it's very good at manually editing configuration files like the ones that you see in the etc directory. There's no oh god, what's it called on Windows? There's no registry in Linux. The configuration files are mostly just text files that you can edit with a decent editor like Vim. Anyway, there are many versions of Vi, including, I like these two. My wife's daughter went on a Unix course years ago. They taught her Vi and she hated it. There's a version of Vi called File. Another one I like called Elvis. Vim is can be thought of as a clone of Vi. There we go. So if you've got Vi and Vim, you might as well use Vim, because Vim does everything that Vi does and does it better. It uses colour and highlighting in a much better way, and lots of other things that I'll show you during this section. So it says if Vim is available, there's no compelling argument for using Vi. Vim is much more modern. It's still difficult to use, but it is more modern. Now, as I said, I've changed the sample files. So what I'm going to do, and what you need to do, whether you're using CentOS or this new Mint one, is copy that and paste it. And it's different to the original version in that it doesn't create an FPT directory. It pastes or copies the files directly into your user, which is better, I think. But just bear in mind, if you're in your home user and you've got loads of files in there, you might not want to paste all these files in. So if you want to make a directory, FPT, to put them in, you can do that with mkdir. Change into the directory with cd fpp pt and copy them into there. So the original example Vim file has been replaced by Vim File 1. So if you're looking at this and you've still got Vim File, you're looking at the old file, which is very similar but different. So you can install the latest files by copying and pasting that. Replace that. If you've got the old files there, it will just overwrite them. Get rid of Vim File and do an ls, and you should be looking at something like that. Then we can start. So using Vim. Vim commands consist of single keystrokes, the letters of the alphabet. So A is append, I is insert, C is change, R is replace. Is sort of intuitive, although X as well as D are delete. But these commands, bear in mind when you're doing this, are case sensitive. So uppercase I does something different, although similar to lowercase I. Same with uppercase A, uppercase R, uppercase C. Now, you can just get into Vim, don't do this, just watch me, by just typing Vim. There we are, we're in Vim. This is Vi improved. If you're going to edit a file or create a new file, that's not the easiest way to do it, because if you type stuff in there, then you have to save the file with a file name. It's easier. Now the simplest way out there, we're going to do ways out later, is :Q. You can do Vim a file name, like new file. You still go into Vim, you don't see the help screen, but you're now editing a new file as it says at the bottom of the screen. Put the content into the file and then save the file. Well, we're going to start, not going to do it that way either, we will later perhaps. We're going to start by editing Vim File 1, which is a file I've put together to help me show you how to use Vim. It's the only file in there beginning with V, so you can just type a V, press tab, and it will fill in the file name. Now, as it says there, this file is for use in learning the editor Vim. And you start with the fact that Vim has 3 modes. We are in command mode. Now, command mode allows you to move about and issue input replace commands. And input replace is the second mode. There's a third mode called sometimes command line mode, where you issue commands. As I did just now, you get into command line mode by pressing a colon. If I want to come out of Vim, I can just press a Q. If I say Vi while we're doing this, because I've been using this for many years, I mean Vim. And go back in again. So you can move around the file. The arrow keys are one way. It's not the easiest way. In fact, it's the slowest way of moving around the file if you want to go a long way, like 200 or 300 lines. But it does work. You can go forwards and backwards a word with W, which jumps forward a word, using things like spaces, tabs, comma, full stop, semicolon to separate the words. These commands are over the page in the notes. Oh, these ones, this is how the original editors worked. You can use H, J, K and L to go left, down, up and right. I always thought it was funny that L goes right, not left. Must admit I don't use them anymore. So there's W and B. If you want to jump around the file, if you want to go further into the file, Shift and G will take you to the last line. This file is about 80 lines which are just repeated 10 times. To get back, as it says there, to get back to the first line, you can use GG, or most Vi commands, Vim commands, you can put numbers in front of them. And Shift and G will go to any line if you put a number first. So I can get back to the first line either with GG, or if I'm on the last line, with 1G. And if I wanted to go to line 650, for instance, as in the example, you guess now probably that I'm just going to work my way through this file and show you how to use it. If I type 650G, there I'm on line 650. Now it's not very easy to tell you're on line 650. So one thing you can do which is really useful is turn on line numbers. I go back to the beginning and we move down. Now to turn on line numbers, you go into command line mode to issue commands, as it says, such as saving the file, but also set commands. and search commands, search and replace commands, all sorts of commands. Now, to get there, I type a colon and say set number, return. I've got numbers on. Now if I type 650G, uppercase G, I'm on line 650. And if I want to go back to any other line, I think it goes up to about 800G, then we're down at the end somewhere. There is more. Back to the beginning, GG. Other ways of moving around are here, so I don't use a lot of these, I must admit, but you can go forward and backwards with Control and B and F, Control and U and D. You can go to the top, which is H, to the middle, which is M, to the bottom of the screen, which is L, H back to the top. These ones I do use. If you're on the end of a line, which you can get to with $, you can get back to the beginning of the line by pressing 0. That's quite useful. And then over the page, here's the setting options. So there's set number, which sets numbers on, and set no number. So if you don't want them on, you can set them off again. I'll show you a quick way of doing that later on. Now you can do searching for text with a / like this. Now in some versions of Linux, if you do a / again, drops down to the bottom into command line mode, type here, it jumps to the first occurrence of here. You can get to the next one with an N, next one with an N, next one with an N, but you'll find, and go backwards with Shift and N, Shift and N, Shift and N, Shift and N. What you'll find, if you're using CentOS, this is highlighted, because in CentOS, HL search is set to on, but in Mint and Ubuntu it's set to off. So if we want to highlight searches, what we need to do is type :set highlight search, and now it highlights it. Now if I go next, there they are highlighted. Now much like when you create aliases or change the prompt to the command line, if you come out now, you'll lose what's been set. But you can store things like the bash RC file in a Vim RC file. We'll do that later on to make sure that these are always on, highlight line numbers always on, when we go into Vim. What did I miss here? So there's numbers on and off. There's HL search. One of the things I don't like about this, that if you come out of Vim now, don't do this. We'll learn how to do this in a minute. Go back in again. Sometimes search is still on. It's not, because we've got it set off again. But if it is set on and you want it off, you do that. :no H, which is no highlight search. So if I search again, should have turned it on, shouldn't I? Set HL search. And obviously if you search for something else, it will go off. But if you just want to turn it off, NOH, like that, turns it off. You can search backwards for here. So if I go to the end of the file with Shift and G and I want to search backwards, I can put question mark here. And then next will find me going backwards, and uppercase will find me going forwards. I'll put my numbers back on. Not like that. Set number. And I'll go back to line 1 and I'll set search off. And then we can look at changing the file, which is the next bit. Now we're going to look at the next mode, which is input and replace mode. So in the file here, if I come down, the second mode is input replace mode. Characters are commands. So to enter this mode, you enter something like an I, an A, an O, an R, whatever. So ignoring the notes for a minute, and we'll look here. I'm going to work my way down these examples. So we go up here. It says insert the text, new text, before this asterisk using I. Now the way you do that is you go to the asterisk. Simple way to use the arrow key. I'm on the asterisk, so I type an I. Now what happens is at the bottom down here it says insert. We are now in insert mode. Anything you type will be inserted into the file. So if I type new text, it puts it before the asterisk. Now it says there, don't forget to press escape. Escape is how you get back to insert mode and carry on working. And what people tend to do is they forget they're in insert mode. So for instance, if I move the down arrow, actually on Linux this doesn't work, it messes up your file, but Linux is a bit cleverer. Suppose I go down here and I think, well, I can delete that character with an X. It says remove this character with an X. Now if I press an X, what happens is it inserts the X into the file because I'm still in insert replace mode. So what I should have done was press escape, in which case insert at the bottom there goes out. Now I can move around. Now I can press X to delete that character. Actually, I want to press X to delete that character. I could have used U to undo what I've done. Let's go back up here. So don't forget to press escape to change modes. Now the difference between I and A, if I go to the asterisk there, I can append new text. If I use an A, press an A, it still says insert because we're inserting text, but the new text goes after the asterisk, not before. Then press escape. You'll get the hang of it as we work down the alphabet. Replace a single character. You can use R. Little r, N. Now with little r, you don't have to press escape, but you can press escape. The worst thing it might do is ring a bell, something flashing on my screen at the bottom there as I press escape. It used to ring a bell on the machine I had if the sound was on. So little r replaces one character. If you want to replace multiple characters here, so the rest of the line, you use Shift and R. Now you're in replace mode and I can type new text there. If I keep typing new text here, it will overwrite the rest of the line. You can go backwards with backspace, but it doesn't replace. Oh, it has actually replaced the text. I was going to say it doesn't replace the text. It does. So you can go back where you were and then again press escape to get out of that mode, back into move around mode. So that's I and A, little r and big R, useful ones. Another two that are really useful is O, opens a new line below. So here I'm going to put new line 1, press escape, Shift and O, I can't spell, never mind, I can insert an E in there, press escape again. Down here, Shift and O opens a line above, new line 2, escape. And what I suggest you do is watch me do this in the video and then try it yourself. I'm going to go down as far as undo. So if you want to delete a single character, X, it's gone. Most commands you can put numbers before. If I want to delete 8 characters, 8x. To delete a line, I use DD. There are other alternative commands for these things. Remove 3 lines, 3DD. And then when you've made a complete hash of your file, you can use U to undo what you've done. Now you can multiple undo, which is one of the main differences between Vim and Vi. Vi doesn't support multiple undo, but with Vim, if you just press U multiple times, it undoes all the changes you've done back until you get back where we came in. And at the bottom it says, already at the oldest change. What's neat, and it's in the notes somewhere, over here you'll find I and A and O and R. I haven't done the uppercase ones yet, I will in a minute. Over the page somewhere, there we are. U is, a guy came on a course once, and when we finished he said, that was brilliant, I learnt the undo command. And I thought, well, what's he been doing when he made a mistake? You can redo with Control and R, which is neat. Go back there so I can cover them. So if I want to put all those changes back again, or some of them, Control and R, go all the way back down to where I was. Now I'm at the newest change. I don't in this file cover the uppercase commands except O, but I'll show you some of them here. Let me undo my changes again and go down here. So there's, well, look, there's little I. So little I, if you're there, inserts before. The difference between lowercase I and uppercase I, if I press Shift and I, that inserts at the beginning of the line. And you can probably guess what uppercase A does. Uppercase A appends at the end of the line. I've done uppercase and lowercase r, uppercase and lowercase o. Another one I really like is CW. If you want to change a word, so suppose I wanted to change the word characters, if I type CW, replaces the words with asterisks, whatever I type there, replaces the word characters. Actually, it doesn't replace it, the asterisk already there. Let me do that again. CW, it deletes the word. So you put in what you wanted to replace characters, and it inserts it. X. Sorry, am I doing U? Back as it was. CC, change the whole line. Replaces the whole line. I don't use that one. Change the end of the line. So if you're in the middle of a line, you want to change the end of the line. Shift and C changes the end of the line. You don't have to remember all these. What you have to remember is how things work. So I do have a cheat sheet, a simple cheat sheet for the basics. That's one thing to remember. Don't forget to press escape to get out of insert mode. I do it all the time. Forgetting, I mean. So that's those commands. Now there are the delete commands over here. The delete key sometimes works, so people, especially people who've come from a Windows environment, will probably like to press delete. That will delete characters. It's the same as typing X, which I'm typing now. One way of getting the whole line back, which is also in the notes, is Shift and U. Rather than just pressing U to get one thing back at a time, Shift and U puts the whole line back as it was. That one's there. So you've got delete DD to delete the current line, delete the rest of the line, Shift and D. So you don't want the rest of the line there, Shift and D deletes the line. No, he didn't. Oh, it's because I wasn't in the window. There we go. You don't have focus if you're not in the window. You've got D dollar. The rest of that's the same thing. DW, delete a word. DE. There's deleting characters and lines, which I already did. And there's a few I like here. U, obviously, to undo. Control and R to redo. Control and U to undo all changes of the current line. Dot. Dot's a really neat command. If I go back to the beginning and I show here. Now there are ways of changing every occurrence of here throughout the file to there, for instance. just in looks like colon. Let's change it to, no, there will do. But I can change that with CW, remember? CW, there, and escape. Now, suppose I want to change the next one. If I press an N, it goes to the next one. And if you look over here, what full stop does, I think this is a really neat command. Full stop repeats the last command. So if I jump to the next one here and press a dot, it changes it. And I can go N dot, N dot, N dot. Don't want to change that one. So I just go N dot, N. Don't want to change that one. Change that one. Like that. You can work your way through the file, changing things. So a combination of N and dot. But like I said, there are ways of changing them all. I'll show you that later on. If I press U, that will get me back to where I was. No H will turn that off. GG will take me back to line 1. What else? If you're a programmer, oh, there's another one there actually. Suppose you want those two on the same line, Shift and J. Little j actually goes down the line, but Shift and J joins lines together. So I've joined all those lines together. I can undo that. If you wanted to join 10 lines together, you can do 10, Shift and J. And joining lines together, what you end up with when you do this multi sort of wrap around lines, this is why I have numbers on. If I set numbers off, set no number, it's not obvious that that's a multi-line unless you use the cursor. So if I go down the line, down the line, down the line, there, that's one line down to there, and it jumps. But if you set numbers on, you can see it's a multi-line. And again, I can put it back as it was with you. What was the last thing? If you're a programmer and you like to indent things, you could come down here and insert with I a tab. But there's another way of doing that, which is neat, which is just to press Shift greater than. And then of course you can use dot to repeat that. If you want to do 10 lines, you can do 10, Shift greater than. That sort of thing will come in handy when we do the shell scripting course. If you want to remove the indent, it's lowercase. Again, you can do it with numbers, or you can use U. Last two there, you can get your screen messed up if somebody sends a message to your screen while you're doing this. You can refresh the screen with Control and L. It doesn't need refreshing because nobody's messed it up. You can show the current file name with Control and G. So if you've forgotten what you're editing, I'm in the wrong window, beg your pardon. There's Control and L, and there's Control and G. So I'm editing Vim File 1, 880 lines. I'll just go back to the beginning. In here. And we'll look over the page at command line mode. In particular, saving and exiting. Command line mode is the third mode. If I go down the file here, to where I got to when I was undoing changes, here we are. The third mode, is command line mode. So you enter that mode by typing a colon. So it's often used to set things. You can do clever searches, you can change text there. Sorry. But its other major use is to quit the file if you don't want to save it, and write and quit the file. So over here, you quit from Vim. Now if you haven't made any changes, you can just press colon to get into command mode, Q. And and it'll come out of the file. However, if you've changed the file, set numbers back on, I'll go and find command, oops, com. There it is. Actually, I should have pointed out something there. If I quit there and go back in again, it remembers where I was. It's on the line that I left. Set numbers back on. Let's bring this up so we can see it. So let's make some changes. Let's delete those 3 lines, 3DD, and now we'll try and quit with :Q. Now, if you've made some changes to the file, it won't allow you to quit. Not unless, as it says there, you add an exclamation mark to override the fact that there's been no write since the last change. So to get out of the file now without making any changes, it's :Q exclamation mark. So if you get stuck in Vim, you don't know how to get out, press escape to make sure, because if you're in insert mode you need to come out of that. Escape :Q exclamation mark, and you're out. Now note that the Q is if you've made no changes to the file. And this will override and exit without saving any changes that you might have made. Other things you can do, if you edit the file, put my numbers back on again. Whoa, what's happened there? I didn't press the colon. Let me see what I did there. S is a command, so I didn't press the colon, I just press S. It's gone into insert mode. W. Let's remove those 3 lines again. I can save the file. It's a bit like pressing Ctrl and S in Microsoft Word or LibreOffice Writer. You do :W. That's written the file away. If you want to discard any unsaved changes and carry on editing the file, you can do :E exclamation mark. There are a lot of clever things you can do in Vim. That's not something I use, I must admit. What I do use is saving the file. Now there are various ways of doing this. You can type exit, which will exit and save the file. Again, if I change something, you can type :write and quit, WQ. That will save the file. The one I use though, because it's only one character, is :X. That's the same. That saves the change file and exits from Vim. Now there's a Vim prompt sheet, and actually there's a prompt sheet in here somewhere, I think, isn't there? I put it in. Did I put it in somewhere? There it is. That's the prompt sheet, which we'll have a look in a minute. That's a Vim review. But if you go to the ice drive, there is prompt sheet and advanced cheat sheets. It says in the handles section at the end of the course notes. Well, obviously there isn't. There was when I was running these courses in the classroom. But if we go to, is it still open? Yep. If we go to the ice drive and we look in classroom introduction, Vim and Nano editors, there's getting by Vim, which is also in the notes. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But if you want more than that, go to handouts. These aren't my cheat sheets, but there's a Vim Basic cheat sheet there, which is a lot more complicated than the one I've done. Mine's a simple one because that's what you want. There's also Advanced Vim, that one, which is something I found online. which you can look at if you want to, or not. We'll look at my one when we get there. I'll change that in the notes so you won't see that in your copy when you. No, it doesn't matter. I'll change it afterwards. Cut and paste. Don't you want to do cut and paste? Right, let's go back into the file. I still like to have numbers on. Because I didn't delete the bit on cut and paste. There we go. Cut and paste right after save and exit. If you remove lines with DD, they're stored in a buffer. So 3DD there removes those 3 lines. You can paste them back somewhere with P. P, paste them below where you are. If I go up, Shift and P, paste them above where you are. So you want to paste them multiple pastes. If I undo that one and that one, okay. If I do a P to paste below and then another P, you don't get them in the right order. So if you want to paste multiple copies, what you use is Shift and P, because if you paste them above, you get them in the right order. But it all depends where you want to put them back. So there's delete, DD, P and P for paste. That one's quite neat for transfer. I used to use that a lot if you can't spell. So if you type the V as TEH, XP, swaps those 2 characters around again. You've also got yank and put. So I can yank these 4 lines with 4YY. The reason I chose 4 was, if you yank 3 lines, oh, it does tell you. I was going to say if you yank, alright, and some systems, if you yank less than 4 lines, it doesn't tell you. Need to put that back as it was, which is daft. There we go. So yank those 4 lines, 4YY. You can then paste them back again. Same thing. P, they go below. Shift and P. Multiples above, whatever you want. And that's how you do cut and paste. It's back where I was. Cut and paste and copy and paste. It's delete and put, yank and put. And that brings us to an exercise. So I can come out of here with Q, because I haven't made any changes. And what I was doing was just to mark it in the video, was saying this is an exercise. There we go. So in the exercise I want you to copy the etc password file into your home directory. It'll overwrite the one you've already got actually, and you'll have the current one from the current server that you're on. Then edit the password file and carry out the following operations, it says. So if you look at the password file, if I do a less on etc password, that's what it looks like. So it says copy the first line for root so that it appears twice. Delete several characters from line 4 and line 8. Find the entry for your own user. So down the bottom here, I'm logged in as KDM, so there's my user there. Move that line to the end of the file, and then if you want, make a few other changes. Try cut and paste options, and then save the file and exit. And what we'll look up over the page is comparing 2 files. So we'll compare etc password with the file that you've edited. I'll just quit that. There are different ways of doing the exercise, so mine's just a solution, a model solution. It's not the only solution. So if I edit the file, no, sorry, got to copy it first, didn't I? Read the exercise, that's what they tell you to do. Sorry. Copy the password file and edit it. Copy the first line for root so it appears twice. Yank it. Y. Paste it. P. Let's set numbers on. Go to line 4 and delete several characters, it says, so we'll get rid of bin there. And we'll go down to line 8 and we'll delete some characters. We'll delete a word there, DW. Find the entry for your own user, /. I'm logged in as KDM. Delete the line and move it to the end of the file. So DD to delete that line, end of the file, Shift and G, P to paste it at the end of the line. And then to save the file, X. Now, having done that, we've now got a password file which is similar to etc password file, but different. So we can compare it. Now, there are lots of commands for comparing two files. The simplest is CMP. So if I compare password with etc password, they differ. So that's really useful if you just want to know if two files are the same or if they're different. If you want to see the differences, you can use diff. Again, this is an old command for comparing two files. And what it does, remember the ed editor I mentioned? This tells you that if you're in the ed editor, you go to line 2 and delete line 1. This is in order to make the two files the same. Go to line 4, where character 3 is different. On line 8, character 7 is different. And there are lines missing and an extra line there. So, like I said, it's an old command. What I like, or the two I like, the other two, sdiff. If I can make this bigger to show you what sdiff is doing, Control and F. We're going to go and try and go to full screen mode. Whoa, there we are in full screen mode. So this is sdiff up here. There's the command. Now what this does, if there's a line missing, it puts a less than or a greater than. So there's no line this side, but there is a line that side. If there are differences in the lines, it puts a pipe symbol. So those two lines differ, those two lines differ. And of course, down the bottom, there's a line missing to the left, because I moved that line to here and to the right. If you're using VirtualBox, you get into full screen mode with right control, which is the VirtualBox control key, and F. And you get out of it again the same way, right control and F. That's neat, but the neatest way to compare them is to use Vim Diff. Again, let me go back into full screen mode so you can see this in all its glory. So Control and F. I can tell it not to show that message each time I do it. Switch. That is rather big, isn't it? Could probably take it down a bit and then stretch it out a bit. Oops. Stretch it. Go on. I have such trouble finding the corners of things. There we go. Right. So what we just did was sdiff. What we want, Control and A to get back to the beginning, is Vim Diff. This is neat. This puts the files side by side in colour and shows you the differences. Not the top of the file for some reason. So the first two lines are the same, but this line here is missing this side. These lines are different. Look, there's extra text there in red. Same on line 8, there's extra text there in red. Here there are 25 lines that are the same. And then down here, this line's gone missing and this line's moved over here. Now if they're very big files, you know, gigabytes in size, I think, it's probably quicker to edit the file and make changes to it rather than copy one file to the other. So you can make changes to this. What you do on the left here, if I go down, I can yank that line with YY. Now to change to the other window, you do Control and W and then press W. There I am in the other window. Now if I go up there and do a paste, P, that's put the other line back, so that's fixed. You could do the same thing with these lines. I could yank that line. It depends which one you want, which one's the correct one, I suppose. But if I yank that line and then Control and W, go back here, I can paste that line there, delete that line, and they're the same as well now. And you can do the same sort of thing. When you've finished, you can quit from one side. You can actually do Q all to quit everything, which is in the notes later on. But I can quit this one. I'll write it away. Let's quit it and save it. Control X. I can quit and save that one with Control X. That's a read-only file. Oh, that's because it's etc password. We can't change that. Quit. Quit, exclamation mark. Okay, let's go back to... I probably mentioned before that when I do a video like this, it's done in bits. This is the 5th piece. And then I join all the pieces together at the end. So if there was a bit of blank screen there, I don't know why it did that. I apologise. You might be able to see the joins if you look at the clock on the desktop, as it changes. So we've done comparing files, and now we're going to move on to mapping keys. It is possible to customize Vim like you can the bash shell, like we did with the .bashrc file, by creating a .vimrc file. And this is how you go about it. So what I used to do when I was editing a file, I used to map keys like this. No, it's not that, is it? It's Vim File 1. If I wanted to quit without typing :WQ, what I used to do was do :map, and I picked on Z, and I mapped Z to :WQ. Now, if I press a Z, it comes up like that. And if I do :map, you can see my mapping. Z there, these are system maps. Z is mapped to :WQ. Well, that was okay until a guy came on the course and he said, but I use Z for macros, because you I'll explain this in the end section in this course in advanced Vim, but you can create macros and rerun them, and you do that with the Z command. You can unmap Z with unmap, a bit like unalias. So I decided I would use control keys. Now you have to be careful which control keys you use, but what I set on in the end was Control and X to quit, Control and P to save, set numbers on, set numbers off, set no highlight, and set list and no list. I didn't explain about this to no list, did I? It's a bit remiss of me. There it is, there. I should have done that first, so let me do that now. If you open Vim 1 again, I'm going to set numbers on because I like numbers on, and go down, find command, pattern not found. How did I spell it then? You can make these searches case insensitive. There we go, this is what we're looking for, list. These are other settings, which I'm surprised I didn't put in the notes somewhere. Maybe I did and I skipped over them, which again I apologise for. I also apologise if I didn't put them in there. Nope, not there. They might be in here later. Let me get back where I was, which was here. Okay, what these do, these are useful. If you go along to the end of a line, like that, some of these lines have got spaces on the end, but you can't see the spaces. Also, some of the gaps here, they're not spaces, they're tabs. So you can find your physical spaces at the end of the line and your tabs by using set list. And what it does, it puts a control and I, the little hat symbol over the 6 key means control. It puts control and I where there was a tab, and it puts a dollar at the end of the line. So if you look at these lines, that line's got space on the end. That one there. That one hasn't. These have got spaces on the end, obviously. So that's useful. You turn that off with set no list, which is a bit of a palaver. So what I do is I use Control and L for list and Control and K for no list. I also like to turn the highlighting off, so I use Control and H for that. Now, I've done this in a file which you've already got. So if I come out of here, the setup files I use for this, and there are quite a lot of them, are all in SCR. There's a lot of them because on the scripting course, which I hope to write next, there are a lot of sample script files. They're all in there. And there's a file in there called vimrc. Now if I copy vimrc into my home directory and call it .vimrc, sorry, copy it from the right place. Actually, it's just occurred to me that I made a mess of something earlier in the course. I was trying to list all the files in the train users, and I said ls, go up into home, and then I typed home. What I should have typed is train 1. And there are the files in train 1. Simple error. Oh dear, I've stopped coughing. I hope it's not anything awful. So I've now got .vimrc. Now if I edit .vimrc, because if you cat it, you don't actually see it properly. That's a comma. Oh dear. There we go. You can't actually see it properly, but if you edit it, you can. So what you've got is show mode, which is something else I should have mentioned. When you press an I, if you've got show mode on, it comes up at the bottom of the screen. Now what you'll find on Unix systems is it tends to be off. On Linux systems it tends to be on. So if I do this on Unix, I want it on, I can set show mode. There's no harm in setting show mode if it's already on. I also set numbers on, and if I'm using Ubuntu based distributions, I set on HL search. Well, I've got it in there anyway because there's no harm. I'd stop there again because something I tried didn't work. But let's look at inserting these. Now the way you insert these control keys is here. It's not straightforward. Well, it's straightforward, but you have to know how to do it. So let's delete that line and recreate it. Actually, if you want to do this yourself, what you can do, put a hash in there so you haven't deleted it. Not sure if you can put hash lines in this file, we'll take it out later. Now, to create or to recreate that line, Shift and O to open the line above, type map space, and then what you do, you press Control and V to get the little hat symbol, so Control and V, and then Control and the character you want, in this case X, Control and X, and there's the X, and then I put a space, colon, Q, exclamation mark, and escape. So I'll take that line out now, and we could save that by just quitting. But since the .vmrc file is there already, we can test it. Simple way to test it. Numbers are on. Control and O, no numbers. Control and N, numbers on. Control and L, set list. So it marks the end of the lines. There's no tabs in there. Control and K, no list. Do a search. Search for set. There it is. Turn it off. Control and H. And if you want to quit, Control and X. I didn't put the Control M on the end there, the carriage return, because that's a carriage return, Control M, because I did that once, made some changes to a file, pressed Control and X by mistake, and it brought this up, colon Q exclamation mark, and quit. You don't want it doing that. If you want to save it, Control and P. I want to save it because the file's fine, so Control and X out of there. Now I'll go back to my Vim file. Actually, a quick way of doing that, press Control and R and type E1. It will go back and find the file, the command that contained E1. So there's numbers on, there's numbers off, there's numbers back on again, there's listing things, turn the list off, that's Control and K, and if you search for something like here, and you want to turn that off again, because there aren't that many of them, are there? There's a couple there, that's Control H. And if you forget what you've got, what you do is you type colon map. And there's the mappings. So that's no H, no list, list, number, number, write and quit. So I can get out of here without making any changes, return to continue, by just pressing Control and X, return. And I use this in my daily life, just how sad I am. So back over here, it says, you know, if you type these things in, save the file, come out of Vim, you'll lose them. But the best thing to do is put them into the .vimrc file. And there's the copy of .vimrc, so it's like an exercise, but you can try it yourself. Use it if you want to. If you Google, you'll find people put lots of things in their .vimrc file, but they're the ones I use. Oh, click contribute. If you're learning new stuff or you're having fun, please subscribe, like, comment, etc. Buy me a coffee. Might mention that again in a minute. Let's look at regular expressions over the page. Regular expressions are clever, complex search strings. Now, if I go to another workspace where I've got a browser open, that's where I was looking up mapping the keys because it didn't work. I go to the ice drive, go to classroom, and look in handouts. There's one called regexp.pdf, and this explains about regular expressions. This is taken from regexp, lib.com. Regular expressions. Maybe that's a bit bigger so it's easier to see. Well, you can open your own copy. You can download it if you want to and have a look at it as a PDF file. Maybe that's what I should have done. That'll do. Right, there are here 11 special characters that you can use to search with. The hat symbol is the start of a string, the dollar is the end of a string. They're the easiest ones. And then you've got dot, pipe symbol, various sets of brackets, asterisk, plus, question mark and backslash. And over here are examples of using them. Now what I'm going to do is show you some of the regular expressions here. Perhaps just two, the simplest two, the caret symbol and the dollar symbol. Because after we've done that, we're going on to look at something else. But later in the course, perhaps in the next section, we'll cover the other 9 characters. So the way these work, the caret symbol matches the start of a line, the dollar matches the end of a line. So if I edit the file in here called log file, let's make that bigger. Log file is quite large, it's got 4,000 lines in, I think. So if I edit log file, of course it comes up numbered because of my .vimrc file. Go to the end with Shift and G. There's 4,000 lines. Go back to the beginning. Now I can search here for log with /log, and it goes and finds all occurrences of log, and I can press N to go next, 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 down to the next page. If I wanted to search for log going backwards, so if I was to go back, column 1, and use question mark log, whoops, what's happened there? That bit's silly wrong there. Question mark, which is down the bottom there, log. It goes backwards through the file, and N takes you backwards. Shift and N takes you forwards until you get back to the beginning again. I'll go back there. Now that shows me all occurrences of log. If you want to find lines that begin with log, use a regular expression. Little hat symbol log only finds me lines that begin with log, and then N will take me down through those. Lines that end with log, you do log dollar, and that shows me lines that end with log. So the first one is all occurrences of log, going forwards and backwards. That's beginning with, that's ending with. Now when I did, if I go back to the beginning and I search for lines that begin with log, this one here is in uppercase. Now if you want to find that one as well, this is really neat. You set IC, and you don't even have to run the search again. It finds that one as well. So that is ignore case. And then if you want to get rid of these, colon no H, which I've got set to Control and H, that turns it off. And that's simple searching using regular expressions. Like I said, in the next section where we look at grep, or in the section where we look at grep, we'll do a lot more on regular expressions. Now that was searching the whole file. Suppose you want to do things on specific sets of lines. You do this with line addresses. Now line addresses, obviously you can use the line number, but you can also use the full stop is the current line that you're on. The $sign is the last line, so you don't have to know how many lines are in the file. You use that with dollar. And the %sign is all lines. So for instance, to match a set of lines, I could say 20 to 50, that's lines 20 to 50. I could say 1 comma dollar, that's all lines. I could say 1 comma dot, which is the first of the current line. So if the current line was 16 here, 1 comma dot would be lines 1 to 16. Dot comma dollar would be 16 to the end of the file. And here are some examples of using this in log file. Somewhere in log file, back to the beginning, is the string error. There we go, lots of those. Now suppose you wanted to change every occurrence of error to something else, like fault, for instance. You can do that by dropping down to the command line and using the S, I suppose it's substitute command. So let me turn that off, Control and H, go back to beginning with GG and do colon, substitute for error, fault. Now, that won't work because that's looking at the current line. So let's go find error again so that we're on a particular line. You see the first effacing, we're on line 626. If I go back down, nice thing you can do down here is you use the arrow keys to find what you've previously done, which is nice. So now I'm going to set error to fault. And what happens, it changes the first occurrence. If you want to change multiple occurrences, you need to put a G on the end of the line. And that will change all occurrences on that line. So again, I can go, I can do an undo to undo that, and then go colon, up, and put a G at the end. Now it's changed that occurrence and that occurrence. But it still only did it on that one line. Now, if I want to change a number of lines and all occurrences on each line, I can go, well, let's undo it again. I can go down and say from line 1, I'll put 1 to 300 in there because error doesn't occur between 1 and 300. I'll go back and change that. Let's say between, we can do an up arrow, and at the beginning of a line here we can put an address. So we could say, here I can see 626 to 633. That's changed all of those, and then undo it. If you want to change everything in the file, make the address either 1 comma dollar, which addresses all lines, so it comes back and sees there have been 65 substitutions on 50 lines. You will get me back where I was. Another way of doing that, which is less typing, because the guys who wrote this stuff didn't like typing, is use %, which maps all lines. Let's change them all again. So that's just on this line. That's the first occurrence on this line. That's all occurrences on this line, and these address different sets of lines. A couple of other things you can do here. Suppose you want to insert text at the start of a line. So let's go back to the beginning, and suppose we wanted to insert some text on the next 3 lines there. You could say from the current line, which was 24, to line 26, substitute for the beginning of line, clever, this is clever, like that. Let's put a space as well. There we go. It's found all the spaces, but we can turn that off with Control H. So there's clever, inserted at the beginning of the line. If you insert at the end of the line, that's easy as well. Undo that and go back down, up arrow to get it back, and this time substitute for $, which maps the end of the line. Perhaps put the space there and get rid of the space there. So now clever appears at the end of those 3 lines. Not quite sure why it's mapping the spaces, but it's easily turned off. Control and H. So those are simple examples of clever things you can do in Vim, like global search commands and using line addresses. You can also do global printing and deleting. I quite like this. I've used this a lot. Back to the beginning. Let's see how many lines contain the word state. So we say get all the lines that contain state and print them. There are only 1, 2, 3 lines, but suppose you wanted to delete them. Return to continue, up arrow, sorry, colon, up arrow, get it back again. So instead of printing them, delete them. Delete. And 3 lines have been deleted. If you want to empty a file, that's not easy. You just go 1, $D. An empty file. You will put it back again. Back to the beginning. Let's go down there. Suppose you want to delete from the current to the last line, $D. U. From the first to the current line, colon, 1, $D. First line to the current line. And this is just a simple examples of all the clever things that Vi can do. And I can come out of the file with Control X without changing it. So why use Vim? Why do people use Vim? It's available on all Linux systems. And quite a lot of people, when they work on a Linux system, they use something like Putty to log in. I've got Putty on here now. Somewhere. There it is. And in Putty here, I've set up a server, my DigitalOcean server connection. So if I go there, in here, I can log in as KenM with the password. I think that's the password. No, it's not. That's the password. I'm in. No, you can't do that. Same environment we've got. Now, a lot of people who use Linux servers from a Windows desktop don't see the GUI at all. All they see is the command line by coming in via Putty like that. And Vi works very well in there. Nano does as well. But if you can use Vi, I think you get a lot more done. Come out of there. It's the standard editor, along with VI on Unix boxes. And sometimes it's the only editor you've got. Nano is not always there. It only puts in the text typed, so there's no formatting with Vi, and it's very good at doing complex search and replace, as I've just shown you. There is, of course, the excellent free alternative, Nano, and there's no harm in using Nano. If I want to make a small change to a small file, I would use Nano. So for instance, suppose I wanted to change the people file. I would say nano people. There it is. I could go in here and just delete a line by using, I think it's Control and K. Cuts a line. There we go. I can save the file if I want to. If you remember, with Control and X. Yes, save the file, save it to the same name or a different name. I'm not going to save it, I don't want to change the file. However, if I want to edit log file and I want to make the multiple changes that we've just done, I find it much easier in Vi. I don't even know how to do things like that in Nano. Well, I'm sure you can. Vim, I should have said. There is something I mean to look at called NeoVim. which is an enhanced version of Vim, but I haven't looked at it yet. Okay, last page. This is exactly the same as the handout in the ice drive here. The handouts that are in, that's a bit big, isn't it? Why are you not getting smaller? That's better. Go back to Classroom and you go into Introduction. There's the Vim handout there, and this is the same as in the course notes. Let's go back there. So, Vim file name to get in. You can set online numbers on and off. You can set list on so that you can see tabs and spaces. You can set HL search on and off if it's not on. You go to the last line with G, the first line with GG, a particular line. You can search forwards with slash, backwards with question mark. N gets you the next, uppercase N gets the previous. You can use I to insert before the cursor, start of a line. Append after the cursor, end of the line. Place a character, replace text. O to open the line above. Shift and O below. Delete characters, delete lines, and undo what you've done. And there's copy and paste by yanking, and there's cut and paste using delete. P to paste them back again. And you can get out with various commands. I use :X. I think that's all you need to know to get by in Vi. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Before we go, I have another gripe back here. Oh, let me say that my next admin ad hoc tutorial, the cat's staring at me because she wants me to feed her, will be on dual booting Linux and Windows, which I'm going to do in VirtualBox. My next section here will be on find and job control, and it would be nice if I got more support from you lot. I mean, training is supposed to be interactive. If I do it in the classroom or live online, then I ask questions and they answer questions. Nobody's asked me anything. I've had very little feedback. I've had some comments. Thank you for the comments, those who commented. I've got quite a few subscribes now and some likes. I haven't seen anybody share my stuff on Facebook, but you might be. You don't see everything on Facebook. But if you want me to carry on developing the scripting and admin courses, I need more support. So do subscribe, like and comment, recommend and share. It would be nice if someone sent me a question or bought me a coffee, since a supporter is worth 1,000 followers, it says there. Now that's all for today, and I apologise again for my coughing and for any blanks in the recordings. I'm not sure what happened there. I'll have to have a look at that. I didn't show it. It's like David, you know, David Attenborough shows. Anybody? At the end, he shows you how it's done. Well, the way it's done here is I use Simple Screen Recorder. I'm still recording at the moment. If I pause the recording, it will create me a file here. There's the current file, and I rename the files in order, and then I journal the bits together, giving away the secrets here. I'll be doing an ad hoc video on how that works later. So that's all for now. So bye bye, and I'll see you for find and job control.